which I'm going to take you on to now. So first ones that I'd like is for you to get hold of your TheraBand if you can. Now what we want is this to be just a nice small width, so it's less than sort of shoulder width apart, or slightly less than ankle width apart. And it's trying to make a bit of a variation on the old classics where we'd be standing, turning our feet out, standing, turning our feet in. So what we're going to do, if you've got these, is we're going to position it around the front of our feet. So you can see that's just around my forefoot on there. So that's where we're going to start. Now we're aiming to get your peroneal muscles with this. So these muscles down the sides of your legs. What's a key point when we're trying to get these is everybody, I always see, pull the toes up as well. Now you pull your toes up, we're trying to target one group of muscles, the peroneal. But we're also getting your extensor hallux, so another muscle, and or your extensor digitorum longus for your toes, so that's another muscle as well. So effectively, if we pull our toes up and do these movements, we're getting everything at the ankle. We're not really isolating any particular muscle. So for me, what's really important when we do these is to focus on curling our toes down at the same time. So we try and keep them relaxed. And what you're going to do is in standing. So we like to do it in standing a little bit, so it challenges our balance a little bit more. Is you're going to come up onto your heels, turn the feet out, back in, down. So lift up, try to keep them toes down, remember? Feet out, back in, and down. So up, out, down. I've really got to focus here and make sure I don't. There we go, that's better. So you might concentrate to keep my toes from curling up. So you can use support if we really want to isolate the muscle. So you can use a little bit of balance. But we're trying to go up, out, back in, control down. Up, out, back in, and control down. Now, I have a progression of these type of things, which tries to make movements a little bit more dynamic. And in particular, I like an exercise called toe walkers. So with a toe walker, we're going to try and walk forward and keep tension on this band the whole time. What I want is you to come slightly up onto the balls of your feet, but just so your heels are only about a centimetre off the floor. If we come too high up, what we do is we lock all the joints in our foot, so they're all stiff and they don't need to really work very hard. So it's very subtle heel off. You're going to go heel off, tight band, and take steps forward. But in each time you keep your knees locked, so we're not bouncing and walking around. Knees are staying nice and stiff and locked. Toes come up, and we perform small pitter-patter movements, trying to move ourselves forward while keeping tension in this band. So tension in the band. Small walks steps forward. Now having the band and doing that is going to get you everything from hips all the way down side of the legs, all the way down your peroneals into your feet. And being elevated on your heels the whole time is also going to hit the calves a little bit. So it starts to give us a bit of an endurance workout for our calves. So that's a particular favorite of mine as a progression. Now, moving away from the TheraBand, we're going to go back to using your towels again. So in the past, and if you've seen physios in the past, one of the common things that we like to do if we're trying to target those ones and these ones is do the classic turn it in, turn it out with a TheraBand. This is a little bit more of a way of challenging them, same muscles, but in a weight-bearing position. So you're going to get your towel and have it nicely flat. The towel is there so we can elevate one side of our foot. So you're effectively just popping half of your foot on the band, on the towel, sorry, with the other half hanging off. So big toe for me is the one that's going to hang off the edge of that towel, effectively allowing me to just fall through that way. So I'm going to raise that up a little bit, fold that up again. Good. So I've got some nice resistance there. Now, using support, what you're going to focus on doing is allowing that foot to drop and then raising the arch back up. Drop it off the edge, down to the floor, and then raise it back up. Drop it down, raise back up. So this is really trying to work that tibialis posterior muscle, the one that controls pronation for us the majority of the time, by letting that foot really sort of drop down and then bringing it back up again. And if you get better, we can convert this into a single leg exercise. So what you can probably see is on this side, my tib post needs a bit of work with the amount of shaking and juddering it's got going on. Really lowering, inverting. Now what you've got to remember is these muscles are endurance muscles. So it's no good just doing 5 reps and thinking that, okay, that's enough to strengthen it, I'm already strong. We're looking at needing like 20 repetitions, 60 seconds worth. These muscles are designed at stabilizing those ankles over long periods of time. So you really want to sort of push this muscle to that point of fatigue. And it's going to take quite a few reps. So for me, now I'm hitting that point of fatigue where that muscle is really starting to kick in and burn. That one is my alternative to your classic pulling the band in. Now for the classic pulling the band out, where we're getting peroneals again, well, big surprise, we're going to go for the same thing, but in reverse. So this time your big toe needs to be down on the towel or the block that you're using. And you're going to go same again, but this time raising the outside of the foot up. So small movements, trying to push my big toe down into the towel to lift the outside of my foot off. And again, transfer into single leg, not swaying my body, just using, focusing and using my ankle to do that movement. So that's a nice one for peroneals. Where I'd move to keep the benefit of using these sort of towels is what we call bridging the gap exercises. So like what we did for the mobility stretch before, where we had our heel and our forefoot placed on in an elevated position, we're going to do the same thing, but this time convert yourself into a balanced position. So what we're not allowing here now is the floor is not in contact with this middle part of the foot. So gravity wants to pull our foot down. So we have to then actively use our muscles to control for any sort of foot collapse. So heel nicely elevated, and the more of that gap you can create, the better. But making sure you don't come past the bony joint. You always want that bony joint in contact with the floor. So in that position, you can then convert to a single leg stance. And straight away you'll find that works your foot a significant amount harder than a standard single leg balance would. So I like this sort of hold and this sort of position. So you can start with a nice little balance. So trying to gain balance and work them foot muscles. We can then progress this sort of thing into single leg mini squats. So controlling that foot arch as we lower our body, just like we would in the stance phase of running. Or progress it to going from a rear leg into a running leg and back again. And progressing it to where we could go to like a single leg Romanian deadlift where we pivot through the hip. If you hopefully see the part of my body, there we go. And come back up. And again, pivoting through the hip. And come back up. So it's really taking that ability to put the foot into vulnerable positions and force it to control. And I like to progress any of my foot-based stability things from first being in a balance and control perspective, and then add additional movements in. And the movements I like to use are the ones that I just showed you because I feel like they really recreate the positions that we get ourselves into when we run. So that is what we call bridging the gap from an exercise perspective. Now, next ones that I like to use are a bit more dynamic ones. So first one, can be a bit of a challenge. So play with me on this and that's how we go. But they're called moonwalks and you'll see why. So this is trying to get a coordinated movement of lots of different muscles. So you're going to raise up onto one toe and at the same time you're going to lift the other foot up and take the heel back behind you. So we go up onto our toe, back with our heel. So we end in that position. Back leg, up onto our toe, and back with the other. Up onto our toe, and back with our heel. So I'll do that one again. So we're going to start coming up onto our toe, take our heel back. Back leg onto toes, heel back. Onto toes, heel back. Onto toes, heel back. It takes a bit of coordination. So one last time, onto toes, heel back, heel back, and heel back. Perfect. So again in standing, we can start to use even your classic based exercises, so things like a calf raise, but trying to do them in a balanced format. So I call these heel rockers. You're trying to get tib ant muscle at the front and calf at the back. And it's a calf raise, but coming down, bringing your toes up and getting back onto your heels, and then back up again. So down, toes up, calf raise. And for those who find that particularly easy, which is not me, we can convert to a single leg. So we really challenge our ability to balance and control our movements as we raise up and as we come back onto our heel. Final one is where you're going to need your tennis ball. So again, we're thinking these muscles on the inside, and we're really going to try and target them. So what you want to do is what we want to get is this tennis ball held right in between the back of our heels. So in that position, just right there. And we're going to try and do a calf raise while holding that ball between your heels. So you're just raising up. But the key point on this exercise is as we raise up to the top, you've really got to squeeze the ball with your heels before you lower back down. So it's raise up, squeeze the ball, but keep your big toe down on the floor, lower back down. Raise up, squeeze, lower back down. Up, squeeze, and lower back down. So those are my whistle-stop tour to loads of different foot and ankle stability exercises and control exercises I use with people. But I think it's important that for me to reiterate that even though we've got these exercises, these are designed at just improving foot control. I think there's a big key element where we need to make sure we have adequate foot strength in. So if we look at the calf muscle, for example, when we run, just running alone, that muscle itself creates an internal force of about 6 times our body weight, which is absolutely ridiculous. It takes the most force of any muscle in the body when we run, is the calf, which is why it can be so challenging to get back from calf injuries. But also for me, it's really important that we condition it appropriately. So you've done stability exercises, foot control. It's also about making sure that we use some calf weights in our gym program, such as leg pressing or weighted calf raises, where we just go in for lower reps. So it might be 6 repetitions, but a much higher weight. So we're really trying to develop its ability to cope with those high forces. I think that for me is really important. So if we can go from that layer of mobilizing and moving the foot, giving the foot and ankle some stability, and then pushing on with some high load strength to really condition the tissue to deal with what it needs to do. So hopefully you can steal some of those exercises and find them a little bit useful for you guys.